The Lost Mermaid-Chapter 2. I threw my backpack into the station wagon before walking with Dacia to the football field. My heart leapt as I saw Jason among the crowd, wearing a brown jacket, his wavy blonde hair shining like a beacon. I was excited and terrified at the same time. I wondered if I could sandbag alongside him. Maybe we could be a team and we could work together? Or I could get in the assembly line by him and pass bags down the lane into the truck. Oh, to stand by that gorgeous blonde hunk would be a dream. But what if I goofed and spilled sand on him? He would look at me and think I was a klutz. What if he talked to me? What if I said the wrong thing? I wasn't even on the field yet, but decided to scrap my half-formed plan. I would sandbag, but I didn't dare get close to him. Maybe later. He was too good-looking. I would watch from afar like usual, imagining the day we would finally talk. Looking back at the parking lot, I saw Dad walking and waved to him. He motioned for me to come, so I ran over. He said roughly, "Julie, get in the car." "Dad, did you hear? They need help sandbagging." "I want to help. You're not needed here." "What?" I paused. "Why?" "Because the boys are stronger, and you might get hurt. Plus, your mom needs you. Can't Shane go home in my place?" I begged. Dad paused for a moment, searching my face. "Please, Dad." Then the usual faraway look crept into his eyes, like he was seeing something he had to shake from his memory. I sighed. That look always meant denial. Dad commanded, "I have spoken." By the tone of his voice, I could tell he was resolute. I flicked my red hair in disgust, turning away. I was ticked. I would never get to do anything but cook and clean in this family. Don't get me wrong. I loved helping Mom and my little brothers. But I was sick of staying home, cleaning up after the big boys, and cooking for those ungrateful slobs. They didn't even help clean the kitchen because they were too busy doing men's work on the farm. I had to pick up their dirty clothes and wash them at the laundromat every week. Mom made me dig out every stinking sock from under their beds for washing. I said nothing as we drove, too angry to speak. I snuck a glance at Dad, who was stone-faced. For some reason, it made me angrier. He wasn't even sorry for making me go home. When we arrived at the farm, Dad said, "Be good to your mother, and don't have a rotten attitude." I glared at him and went inside, mad as heck. Throwing my bag down, I popped 2 pieces of bread in the toaster for my afternoon snack. I pulled a cup off the shelf, bugged that the cupboard door was still missing. I hated that our old farmhouse was in a perpetual state of construction. Mom and Dad never went into debt, so the house was never finished being renovated. We looked like the Finsters. As I sat down with a big cup of milk, I heard Mom call me. Man, is there no rest for the weary? I picked up my cinnamon toast and went to Mom, who was putting her feet up. She looked beat. "Hi, Mom," I said as I bit into my toast. "Hello, Julie," she smiled weakly. "How was your day?" "Fine," I said with a mouthful of toast. I thought about telling her how unfair my life was. How Shane always got to drive, the boys always got to do things and go places. But I had to stay home, but decided against it. I felt sorry for Mom's swollen legs and ankles. She looked as if she had just run a marathon. "I need your help cleaning the bathroom, getting dinner on, and putting the Christmas ornaments on." "I'll get the decorations down." "All right," I sighed. She immediately picked up on my mood, tilting her head to the side. "What's the matter, Julie?" "Well, I'm bugged." I sighed. I wish I had more friends. Dacia's great, but she lives so far away. I wish she was closer. I need my driver's license so I can drive to her house. "Yes, that would be nice," Mom said, searching my face. "Is there something else?" she asked. "Well, yeah," I said, wishing my mom wasn't such a good mind reader. "There's this guy I like." I couldn't help it. A string pulled my lips into a little smile. "His name is Jason Jackson. He's gorgeous. We have a few classes together, but he hasn't even noticed me. How do you know? He hasn't talked to me. Well, have you talked to him? No, I'm too scared. He's so amazing and handsome. I wish he'd talk to me, but whenever he comes close, I just get so nervous I walk away. Mom smiled. Julie, I want to tell you something. First of all, guys are chickens. They aren't pulling out their binoculars trying to figure out who's the cutest girl in school, so they can ask her out. They talk to the girls who make it easy for them to chat with. You think? I questioned. Mom nodded and continued. Say you go to a baseball game. Afterwards, the guys don't call the most popular girls to go out for root beer floats. They ask the girl sitting next to them on the bleachers to go get a drink. Really? I asked. Really. You've got to rub shoulders with guys. Be friendly. It gives them the courage to ask you out. I nodded thoughtfully. That makes sense. She bumped my shoulder playfully. Of course it does. Now, sweetie, will you help me with the Christmas decorations? Sure, I said, smiling back. Mom was so beautiful and confident. Why couldn't I be more like her? I wasn't lovely. I was a clumsy, red-headed girl who wore second-hand dresses and scuffed shoes. I looked more like a curtain going to school than a hip girl wearing trendy clothes. I doctored hand-me-down skirts with ruffles because I wanted to be modest, even though it wasn't fashionable. If only I was prettier, I knew Jason would notice me. But my mind started to think about miniskirts. They were the rage. Everyone wore them, even on cold days. If I wore them, I wondered if Jason would notice me. I shook my head. They showed far too much. I laughed at myself for even considering it. As we set up the decorations, I thought about Mom's idea and wondered if I could figure out how to connect with Jason. Sandbagging would have been perfect. Oh, well, I couldn't go back now. Christmas was almost here, but it didn't feel like the holiday because of the torrential rain. We'd gotten the pine tree a few days ago, on December 15th. That was when Dad got paid, so we could finally spend money on Christmas stuff. I strung the colorful lights around each branch, which poked my arms. Meanwhile, the little boys made a mess of the balls and ornaments on the floor. Mike, can you take Max and Wayne somewhere else? Let them stay, Mom said. They're having fun. She placed the hanger on each ornament so we could hang the balls. Leroy would do the tinsel one strand at a time later, because, unlike me, he had that kind of patience. Mike and Wayne hung the ornaments on the bottom of the tree. Max promptly pulled them down to play with. It was hopeless to get it looking decent. Mom turned on the radio. The rich, chocolatey voice of Bing Crosby sang, "I'm dreaming of a white Christmas." The music seemed to promise that someday our home would be peaceful and happy, which I hoped was true. Someone knocked at the door, and Wayne jumped up to answer it. It was Jared Shelley, our neighbor from across the street. We talked sometimes. He was kind of cute, I guess, with light brown hair and brown eyes, but he wasn't my type, unlike Jason Jackson. Now that boy was a hunk. Probably the best-looking guy in the whole school. Dacia and I would always obsess over him together. He was tall and handsome, with chiseled features, blonde hair, and the bluest of eyes. Jared's voice pulled my thoughts away from Jason. Can I borrow a half cup of sugar? We ran out and were making cookies. Yes, Jared, Mom said. Give me a minute. She lumbered off the couch and waddled into the kitchen. Hey, Julie, he said. Hi, Jared, I called back as I popped balls on the tree. Your tree looks swell, he said cheerily. Thanks, I sighed. It's rough decorating with all these elves. I can only imagine, he said, smiling. Mom came back in with the sugar in one of Great Aunt Katie's teacups. The beautiful china cup with the oriental scene and gold trim. I wanted to protest, but knew it was useless. Mom was sacrificing one of our rare antiques for a stupid cup of sugar. She was generous to a fault. We would probably never see the heirloom teacup again. "Tell your mom Merry Christmas," she said, handing it to Jared. She didn't even remind him to bring back the cup. He ruffled Wayne's hair and hugged Max, careful to not spill the sugar. Standing up, he waved to me and said bye. "Julie." "Thanks, Mrs. Johansson." I waved back. Irritated mom ruined our tea set. "Life," I muttered under my breath. Sometimes it was so unfair. "Mom, can I talk to you in private?" "Sure, honey." "What is it?" We walked into the kitchen to talk alone. I took a deep breath. "Mom, I'm really irritated that you gave away that cup of sugar. It breaks up our heirloom tea set we got from Great Aunt Katie. I love beautiful things, and we have so few nice things." "I'm sorry, Julie. I didn't even think about it." "Well, can we get it back?" "I imagine." "Mom, why can't we have nicer things?" Mom paused. "Well, we work hard and pay our tithing, but we have a big family and we spend our money on things we value." "Like beautiful things?" Really, I already knew the answer. They didn't care about beauty the way I did. Mom confirmed my thoughts. "No," she said. "We spend money on horses, cars, and food. Horses are expensive, and your dad and the boys love to ride. It's important to have fun and make memories. Dad and I value safety, so we always have good working vehicles. The farm allows us to have plenty of milk and produce, so we are blessed. There isn't much money for extra. I just wish it was different." "Me too." Mom looked like she was searching for words to help me understand. "Jules, your dad works hard to provide for us, and it's a big responsibility. Can I tell you something in confidence?" "Yes," I nodded slowly. "Some days, Dad wakes up with nightmares." "He does?" This was not what I was expecting at all. "He's scared he won't be able to provide for us on his teacher's salary, even with the farm. Sometimes he says to me, 'What's going to become of us?' It's as if he thinks there's a wolf under our bed, and he's afraid it will get us." His mother struggled to provide for her children after her alcoholic husband died. "He doesn't want our family to suffer like they did." I encourage him and tell him God will provide, but he still worries. I never realized the burden he has on his shoulders. Yes, it's a lot to carry. I pondered our conversation as I returned to decorating. "Wayne, stand here and put the ornaments higher, okay?" I said, lifting him onto the chair. He squealed. "'Kay, Jules." I glanced at the huge present the boys had under the tree. Each year, we exchanged names for presents. The boys usually pooled their money to buy a big present for themselves. Last year, they bought a model train. A small present sat beside it, wrapped in newspaper. It had my name on it. When we'd gone to the store, I'd looked down the aisle and saw Mike begging Wayne to take a paper from him. I knew it was my name from the exchange. No one wanted to buy a stupid girl present for me. Oh well. I hoped it was a new set of curlers because mine were broken. A few years ago, I saved S&H stamps for months to trade in for a set of hot rollers. But they didn't work anymore. Now, I had to boil them in a pan of hot water to heat them up. It took effort, but I always tried to look my best. I got busy making scalloped potatoes and meatloaf for dinner. Dale, my oldest brother, clomped in. Bumping into me, he processed the milk and washed the equipment from milking. Ignoring him, I opened the silverware drawer to find a spoon. It was a mess, as usual. I still couldn't believe it was Mom who did this. She was one of the most caring, patient people I knew. But when it came to this, she just chucked the knives, forks, and spoons in the drawer. She didn't have time for sorting, but it drove me nuts. I sighed, pulling out a spoon and setting it on the counter. Turning back, I tidied up the rest, wishing I could order my life that easily. The rest of the boys came home for dinner. The rain persisted, so we were all stuck inside together, making it extra rowdy. Wiping my hands on a dish towel, I turned away from washing the dishes to see Mom watching me. Holding her hand on her tummy, She smiled at me in her usual calm, serene way. "Thank you, Jules, for a wonderful dinner," she said. I nodded. "You're welcome, Mom. Did you get some rest today?" I laid down for a bit. "I'm glad. I'm excited for the baby to come. This waiting game is not my bag. It's not easy for me either, Angel. But the baby will come when it's ready." She smiled, then waddled down the hall to put the little boys to bed. Would I finally get a sister? Mom was 45 years old, and I know it sounds crazy, but I had begged her for years to have one more baby. How I longed for a sister. I had prayed fervently for as long as I could remember for another girl in our family. It would be so nice to have a sister, to have pink, pretty things in our house instead of so many stinking socks and sneakers. After so many years, I'd accepted I would probably never get a sister. It had been my dream as a little girl, a baby sister, to be my best friend. I wanted someone I could share my hopes and dreams with, someone who would understand me. I'd adopted all sorts of pets to be my little sister: chicks, piglets, rabbits, and kittens. But they had not filled the place in my heart that was waiting for a sister. As a teenager, I'd given up my dream, as each baby popped out as a boy over and over again. But now I had one last chance for God to grant me the childhood wish of my heart. She would not be a best friend as I'd hoped because of our age difference. But she would be a sister, and nothing could change that. As the only girl, I had tried my whole life to fit in with my brothers. More than anything, I wanted to be in their club, but they had never accepted me. My only brother who was good to me was Shane, my twin. My thoughts were interrupted as the door burst open, making me jump. Dad stomped inside, drenched from head to toe. The rainwater ran down his arms and dripped from his hat, creating a puddle around him. He shook himself, calling for my older brothers. "Boys," he said gruffly, "get over here. The Shelleys' cows need to be moved to higher ground. Come quick." I jerked myself from my thoughts. "Can I go?" I asked hopefully. Dad cast me a brief, annoyed look. "No. Stay here with your mother. Finish washing the milk jars." I opened my mouth to protest, but stopped. "Okay, Dad," I said, inwardly seething. Twice a day we washed 15-gallon glass jars with super hot soap and bleach. It was a long, hot job, and I hated it. The boys always got to go out, but I was Miss Stay-Home Cinderella. It was such a ripoff. Leroy sneered at me as he ran past. "It's a bad idea to come along," he snickered. "The Shelleys might mistake you as one of their cows." The rest of the boys sniggered, except for Shane, who shot me a sympathetic glance. I glared at them and went to the sink. The boys left, leaving the house silent. As I worked, my thoughts began to wander. We had been getting so much rain, I wondered if our pond could handle it. I should go check once the rain stopped. If it stops raining. I was starting to wonder if it ever would. I wondered what Jason Jackson was doing right now. Was he inside working or outside helping his family on their property during the storm? If only I were a fly on the wall at his house right now. I would just love to watch him. After my chores were finished, I sat on the couch feeling a sense of unease as I waited for Dad and the boys to return. The creaking and moaning of the house added to my fears. I got up and walked over to the window, looking outside to see if I could spot them. It was already dark, and the one streetlight cast an eerie glow. The cottonwood trees surrounding our yard swayed and bent in the wind, branches scraping against each other like they were tired of warding off the evil rain demons. I wondered if the boys were okay. Suddenly, I heard a loud bang. My heart raced as I tried to figure out where the noise came from. Was it the boys? Had they returned? I made my way to the front door, slowly opening it to peer outside. The wind howled, and I could barely see anything in the darkness. But then I saw movement. 3 figures stumbled towards the house. Relief washed over me as I recognized the boys. They looked exhausted, their clothes torn and muddy, drenched from head to toe. I was grateful they were finally home. Mom and I helped them take off their coats and boots and get warm. As we sat together on the couch, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the safety of our home. The creaks and moans of the house were suddenly comforting, reminding me we were all safe and sound. Well, not all of us. Where's Dad? I asked. He's coming, Shane said. Dad finally burst in, dripping like a storm cloud. Taking no time to dismantle or dry off his outerwear, he sprinted across the living room and snapped on the radio. It crackled to life. This is an emergency broadcast from KINS Radio Broadcasting, live on December 17, 1964. We bring alarming news. The National Weather Service has issued a severe flood warning for the residents of Humboldt, California, effective immediately. The Eel River is flooding, it announced. All residents of Humboldt County must find higher ground. Amid static, the Lost Coast is flooding. I repeat, evacuate to higher ground. Dad and Mom glanced at each other in concern. I tensed. Would we be okay? We're close to the river, Mom said worriedly. Are we safe? Yes, Helen, Dad assured her. Our house is on high ground. We'll be fine. The words comforted me a little, but I was still on edge. What if the water reached Ferndale? What if it reached our house? But we were all okay. We were all here and accounted for. Everything was going to be just fine. It seemed fate wanted to prove me wrong. As I sunk into my armchair, I heard Mom stumble and groan. She grabbed her lower back, struggling to breathe. As I rushed to her side, I could tell the baby was coming. Minutes later, Mom's water broke,